Okay, so I moved to Kelowna, BC over a decade ago, and since then I've been exploring the Okanagan from top to bottom and just really experiencing everything this area has to offer. And if you're planning on moving to Kelowna, BC or any of the surrounding towns from Vernon to Osoyoos, then this video is going to be perfect for you. Through my experience of relocating here, doing the right things, doing the wrong things, and really just discovering everything that this beautiful region has to offer, I've come up with a list of the top 10 things that I wish I knew before I moved here to help save you some time and a huge headache to make sure that this is a perfect fit for you. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so the number one thing that I think people should know, and I wish I knew before I got here, is to get involved. Now, what do I mean by get involved? When I moved here, I came from a region where I grew up with all of my friends. We all lived close by each other. And then I moved to Kelowna, and Kelowna was touted as this place that's really hard to meet people. And now that I've lived here and had some experience here, I don't actually believe that's true. I think I didn't know after high school, after you grow up with a bunch of people, that it's a bit more challenging to get out there, make some friends, and establish a bit of a community. So what I mean by get involved is there are so many different ways when you get to Kelowna or the Okanagan that you can get involved. Figure out what your hobby is, join a Facebook group. There are 100 different sports leagues, intramural leagues that you can meet people. If you have an interest or a hobby, there's probably a group or club that people get together, like-minded individuals where you can meet people, get to know people, and branch out without having to put as much effort into it. Because realistically, at this age, when you're trying to meet people, establish that friend group, it really does feel like you're trying to date people. So don't buy into the hype of people saying Kelowna is cliquey, Kelowna is a tough place to meet people. So many people here, I would say a vast majority of people that live in Kelowna aren't originally from Kelowna. They're just like you. They relocated from somewhere else. They've maybe made their own friend group based off of some of their interests. So you can be that person. You can do the exact same thing. And if you put yourself out there, there's no doubt in my mind that you're not going to find a group of like-minded people to build friendships with and establish a community, because Kelowna to me is an extremely friendly place. So just make sure that you're putting the effort in. Honestly, it was like when I moved here, it was like I was waiting for people to knock on my door and say, hey, do you want to be friends? You have to put yourself out there a bit, and those opportunities are going to come. And that's going to lead me to number two, and that's get adventurous. This region from the tip of Vernon down to the bottom of Osoyoos has an unlimited amount of activities or hobbies that you can get involved in. There were so many things that I didn't grow up with, so I didn't know what I was interested in. So my biggest recommendation is try out new things. Start hiking, maybe get on a mountain bike, get involved in some water sports, pick up golf, which seems to be one of the biggest hobbies here. I mean, there's so many people playing golf. There's so many amazing courses. I wasn't a big wine drinker, and I'm not a big wine drinker anymore, but when you live in such a beautiful wine region where the viticulture from top to bottom brings you to these amazing wineries with picturesque views of the vineyards and amazing food, it's kind of hard not to fall in love with the wine culture and get a bit invested in that. So try it out. There's just so many things that you can do to expand your horizons and try some new things and just expand yourself as a person. So become adventurous. And listen, maybe you're not an outdoorsy person, but there's something in the summer, there's something in the winter. If you want to go up to Big White or Silver Star or Apex, try snowboarding, skiing. And even if you're not an outdoorsy person, when you get here, it's kind of hard not to catch the bug. It's beautiful here. We have the long summers, we have the short winters. So it makes it really easy to get outdoors all of the time, even in the middle of winter, especially if you're used to coming from a place where it's -40 all winter and you're literally stuck indoors. It's not like that here. So for me, that's easy. Number one and number two of things I wish I knew coming here, and as I've lived here, I've really learned, is to get involved and get adventurous. All right, so number three is going to be picking the right town. Now, when I came here, I didn't even know what Kelowna was. So of course, I'm not gonna know about all of the towns that make up the Okanagan. So I think that's really something you should learn about, and the best way to learn about it is to visit these places, check them out, see what town in the Okanagan is going to be right for you, because maybe you want to be dead center in the hustle and bustle of things in Kelowna, like the main city, the heart of the Okanagan, or maybe you want a little bit of a quieter atmosphere up north in Vernon. Maybe you want the scenic beauty of all the lakes and lake country. Maybe you want a small town feel with Summerland and Peaksland, or you want to be in that gateway to the southern part of the Okanagan and Penticton. Or maybe you want to be all the way at the bottom in the heart of wine country in all of Canada and Osoyoos and Oliver. There are so many options in the Okanagan. I think it's really important that you explore these options, find out which town is going to be right for you. And that's going to move us right into number 4, which is, number 3 was picking the right town. Number 4 is going to be picking the right region, the right area, the right neighborhood in one of these towns that, again, is going to fit with your lifestyle or not going to fit with your lifestyle, because Kelowna isn't just one thing. It's not just a busy city in the heart of the Okanagan. There are family-friendly areas, there are more rural areas, there's that city lifestyle, and that kind of goes in par with most of the different towns surrounding the Okanagan. So you're gonna have to pick the town first, and then the next step is gonna be picking that area, that neighborhood, that sub-neighborhood within that town that's gonna be the most conducive to how you wanna live your lifestyle. Because you might be a more adventurous person and an outdoorsy person, you wanna be on the edge of town, close access to nature, which realistically, in most of the towns of the Okanagan, everywhere has great access to nature. Or maybe you don't want to have a vehicle and you want to be in downtown Vernon, downtown Penticton, downtown Kelowna. Or maybe you want to look at those family-friendly suburbs which are scattered throughout the Okanagan. And it's important that as you move forward in the process of coming to the Okanagan, that you continue to narrow your focus. You start with the region, you pick the Okanagan, you move into the town, then you pick the neighborhood. And you find that place that's going to work best for you. And if you need help doing that, you got to reach out to me. You can call me, text me, email me at the information on the screen right now and linked in the description down below. I have people reaching out to me every week that I help out. And if you want to make it even easier, there's a link down in the description for a free 30-minute consultation. I can answer any questions you have, provide some insights on the different towns and areas, and help you make the right choice to simplify this process so you don't have to worry about a thing. Now let's move on to the next one. All right, so the number 5 thing I want to talk about is the forest fires. And it's not the fact that we have forest fires. I think most people now know that the Okanagan is an area that's absolutely affected by the forest fires. Something I wish I knew before I moved here is that forest fires are not an Okanagan or Kelowna specific thing. Of course, we have had some major forest fires here back in 2003, and of course the West Side Fire of 2023. I'm not saying that Kelowna and the Okanagan itself isn't absolutely affected by forest fires. What I think it's important for people to know that it is not an Okanagan specific thing, no matter how much the media tries to push that, which I think is really strange. Realistically, everywhere in North America, the northern parts of all provinces are all equally affected by forest fires. Now, of course, here we have a really hot, dry climate. We have a lot of nature, a lot of fuel for the fire. Now, Kelowna has had plenty of years since I've been here that have been really good for fires. They've been really good for smoke, and they've had some bad years. Just like the years where we don't have fires near us or we're not affected by the smoke, places in Manitoba, places in Alberta, places in northern BC are drastically affected by these things. So I think that's just really important for people to know, because I have had some people who have reached out to me or who have moved here, and that's been a big fear of theirs. And I think it's something that's important to understand. It's important to, have a to-go bag, have a plan of action that's going to get you safe and get you out of town. But just know that you don't have to live in fear when you're here. I don't wake up every day in the summer, look out my window expecting to see a fire. Kelowna and the Okanagan are affected by these things, but it's not something that we own, and that's absolutely specific to us. So I think that's just a piece of wisdom I definitely want to pass on to you guys. And number 6 on the things I want to talk about is to know the hot spots. Now, what do I mean by hot spots? I mean the bad areas in our town and in our region. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm as familiar with, some towns like Osoyoos on where the bad areas. I don't even really know if they have too many bad areas, because realistically, Kelowna itself and places like Vernon and Penticton, the areas to stay away from are realistically few and far between. But I think it is crucial to know where these areas are so you can avoid them. You don't purchase near these places and devalue your home. And just to have that information, so when you come here, if you're planning on moving here, you're planning on renting, you're planning on laying down some roots here, you just come in with the most information possible. You come in with your eyes wide open, and you just understand that with every city, with every town, they're not all going to be fantastic areas. There are going to be some bad spots. I feel like that's an area I can really help out with, because I have 10 years of mental health experience with over 8 years of boots on the ground working in the mental health community here in Kelowna. So I've been to the bad areas. I know where they are. I have the experience. I'm going to tell you the places to avoid, which again, the list is very small, but there's some areas I would definitely recommend staying away from. So number 5, again, is knowing that the forest fires aren't specific to Kelowna. And number 6, getting to know the hotspots, the bad areas, the areas to avoid when you're coming here. Just know that although there are some hotspots and bad areas to look out for and to avoid in Kelowna and the Okanagan, there's a lot more of these spots and these views. Okay, so number 7 on my list is know the BC specifics. What I mean about that is, the different taxes, the different rules, the different regulations that BC has compared to other provinces. I mean, too much to cover in one of these videos is something that realistically I could probably make a whole video on. But just off the top of my head, a couple things you want to know if you're moving here, if you're purchasing property, things like property transfer tax, something I absolutely didn't know about coming from Ontario, but it's a tax that is involved in the purchase of residential real estate, and it's a significant amount. On the average price of a home here, you're looking at $10,000+ on your purchase. So something like that is going to be really important for you to know before you even move here, so you can wrap your head around it. If you come from a place like Alberta where you don't have provincial tax, know that BC has the provincial sales tax on goods and services. Another quick one that just comes to mind when I'm thinking about BC specific things is the ban we have on short-term Airbnb rentals. If you're planning on coming here and purchasing a property specifically just to have it as an Airbnb, you might want to look into the regulations and bans that BC already has on short-term Airbnb, and also that the individual municipalities have on Airbnb and short-term style rentals, because BC created these rules and regulations that were, already limiting Airbnb and short-term rentals a significant amount, but then Kelowna itself, its municipality, different from the rest of the Okanagan, doubled down on that and made it even harder to run these types of operations. So again, when you're moving here, it's important to look at the bigger picture of things. It's great to know the town, it's great to know the areas, but especially if you are purchasing real estate or you're coming here maybe to create a business, your plan was to buy up properties and run short-term Airbnbs, things like that. It's important to know the different provincial factors and taxes and rules and regulations specific to where you're living in. So that's number 7, knowing the BC specifics. And number 8, I think, is kind of important. Again, this one's not actually BC specific, but I think since Kelowna is such a fast growing and developing town, it's a good tip for anyone coming here, especially if you're looking to save a little bit of money when you're purchasing a property, and that's to get in early. What I mean by get in early is pre-sales. Since Kelowna is growing, we have new developing master plan communities, from single family homes, townhouse communities, and of course the number of condo buildings that have popped up in the last several years, from the Movala, the Aqua, Water Street by the Park, Bernard, Bertram, and the Cabane, and more that I didn't even list, and more that are upcoming. But the point of this is if you're moving here and your plans are to lay down some roots, and maybe you're not actually planning on moving into BC for a couple of years, it might be worth looking at some of the new construction and pre-sales that are coming in, because when you do get in early, generally you can save yourself a lot of money before the property is built. Sometimes that can take 1 to 2 years, so that could work perfectly with your timeline. So if you're coming here, know the specifics, know the tax implications of the province you're going into. And also, if you're looking to save a bit of money, you want to start early, you want to invest and want your wealth and investment to grow before you even move into a place, look at getting in early. Look at some of the pre-sale opportunities that are around, from condos, townhouses, and single family homes. And if you take into account all the steps of things to know before you get here, when you get here, what kind of direction you should go and what kind of area you can live in, and you start to build on this step by step from these pieces of advice I get from someone with lived experience of relocating here, it's going to help make your transition a whole lot smoother. Now we have 2 things left to talk about, and for that, let's head to the beach. Okay, so number 9 is to leasehold or not to leasehold. And before I even moved out here, I had no idea what leasehold is. Now, I'm not going to get into an incredible in-depth conversation of the differences between leasehold and non-leasehold, but basically freehold property is what you're used to and wherever you live. Leasehold is either privately owned, or here we have a lot of West Bank First Nations leasehold, and essentially you own the property on top of it, but the land is leased. Now, these leases are usually for 100 years plus, depending on where they are at in the lease, and that scares a lot of people. And it scares people who are moving here and don't really know what that is, but leasehold to me is a really great option, especially when it comes to affordability for single family homes. You can stretch your money a lot further, still get a very nice house, and the leases nowadays are modernized leases, so they're very safe and secure. People have this big fear that they get a leasehold property, and then all of a sudden someone in 5 years is going to come and say, hey, get off my land, I'm taking the house back. That's not how these things work. There is a big legal process. They are very covered in your contract, and they are very, very safe. Now, I'm talking a huge price difference. When I look at the average over the last 360 days of sold freehold properties versus leasehold, we're talking about a median price of $999,000 versus $659,000 for the entire central Okanagan. Now, I mean, the pool for leasehold properties is a lot smaller. There's only certain areas that really have the West Bank First Nations leasehold. Those include areas like Fintry, Lakeview Heights area, and of course the West Bank Center. And we're talking of a pool difference from those sales of over 1,700 for freehold properties and under 150 for leasehold properties. I just think it's something you should be aware of, especially if you're planning on laying roots down here and maybe your budget's a little tighter, but you still want to get into that single family home. I strongly think you should at least look into leasehold, learn more about it, and find out if it's going to be a great option for you. Now, number 10 on the list, it's something common. It's something that you've probably heard, but maybe you aren't aware of that and you're moving here. But the expression that people say BC means bring cash is true. BC is quite a bit more expensive than other provinces. Now, if you're looking at a difference from the East Coast to the West Coast, that's going to be a fairly dramatic difference. Of course, our wages are higher here. The lifestyle is a lot different. I'm not saying it's better or it's worse, but you're going to notice a big difference if you're coming from the far East Coast, you're coming from the flatland provinces and the prairies, but probably not much of a difference, and sometimes even a discount if you're coming from places like Southern Ontario or even the lower mainland or the island. Now, if you want more of an in-depth analysis of what the actual cost of living, specifically in Kelowna is, because Kelowna is more on average, I feel like, with the rest of the country, as opposed to the lower mainland, which is gonna be a lot more expensive and closer to prices around the Toronto area. You can check out my video on the cost of living in Kelowna, updated for this year, and take a look at that. It'll give you more of a breakdown of certain costs, what you kind of need to be at if you're planning on living here, and what kind of money you're going to be spending in terms of living expenses. But that is something, just in case you didn't know, I feel like it's pretty common knowledge when you're moving here. I didn't have too much experience when I was moving here from Northwestern Ontario, but now I can definitely see the vast differences in terms of prices. I mean, especially with inflation, it's just gone even crazy over the last couple of years. But again, I feel like Kelowna and the Okanagan is a little more on par with the average. When I go to the lower mainland, if I go to somewhere like Whistler, you really start to notice those high prices of BC. And that's when that really starts to hit you, that BC bring cash. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. And as you can see, I mean, there was a few little gems in there that you may not have been thinking about, but it's kind of things I wish I knew are very in line with my theme that I always talk about of finding a place that fits your lifestyle. And as you can see, there are a ton of different lifestyles based on different neighborhoods, based on the different surrounding towns, the different areas, the different regions. And some of these lifestyles are going to work for you. And of course, some of them aren't. That's why it's so important to connect with someone like myself, who is an Okanagan real estate professional and relocation specialist, to help you find the area that's going to work best for you. You don't have to be living in that city hustle and bustle. You don't have to be the big outdoor adventure person if you live here. There's something for everyone in our region. And if you want to reach out to me, call me, text me, email me at the information on the screen right now, or listen in the description down below. Make it even easier. Book yourself a free 30-minute consultation from the link in the description down below. Let me answer any questions you have. I have people reaching out to me every single week that I help out, and I love getting to know people, finding out what they're looking for, and kind of tailor what their search is and help point them in the direction of what they might be looking for. What I feel, based off my experience here, is going to be the area or town that's going to fit their or their family's lifestyle the best. So there you have it. Those are the top 10 things I wish I knew before I lived here. I feel like if you take all these things into account, all of these factors, it's going to make your move, your transition here, that much smoother. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did and you want more information on the area, you want more neighborhood walkthroughs, descriptions of the towns, more breakdowns of top neighborhoods in Kelowna or Vernon or Penticton, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Living in Kelowna BC. I have a ton of content there that people find really helpful when they're starting their search. And please, again, reach out to me anytime. Again, my name is Boholij, your Okanagan real estate professional and relocation specialist. This is my channel, Living in Kelowna BC, and I will catch you in the next video.